What's up, Lions fans? It's Morgan, one of the writers at prideofdetroit.com, coming at you with another video. And in this one, we're just doing a quick recap of day 8 of Lions training camp. So today was a little bit heavier of a workload. They were back in pads, and after a slower day yesterday, the 31st. So they had a slower day that day. That's all mandated through the CBA. I know I've said that before on this channel. But yeah, it's all mandated. They can only have so many padded practices throughout the course of camp, so you have to like pick and choose. And I love it because it hopefully keeps people healthier longer and allows for some good football to be played when the fall rolls around. So we can get into it here. Couple injury items. So still no DJ Reader or Zonovan Knight, although per the beat writers, Eric and Jeremy, they were working on the side, so that's a good sign. And Coyote Awashika, backup interior offensive lineman who played some important snaps for the Lions down the stretch in 23. Also not out there. Unclear why, but obviously Dan Campbell will speak tomorrow morning prior to practice, and hopefully we'll get some answers there. Important to note, I want to say tomorrow is the last practice before they pack up and head to New Jersey for the joint practices with the Giants. So that'll be fun to watch. I know Jeremy's going to cover everything in person. I don't think Eric is. He has 3 children, so I understand maybe why he's not. So yeah, something to think about as they go into tomorrow. Tomorrow's August the 2nd. That'll be a Friday. And good news, though. We'll start with the good news. Brian Branch was back, ready to go. So that's pretty cool. He had been working up, like ramping up to being a full participant. And yeah, I'm sure he's excited. So important to note, they had him repping with the 1s and the 2s, which is just basically doubling up his workload. You only have so many. You can't just practice for however long you want and make it work in the NFL. It's all regulated. It's all standardized. So yeah, he was working with the 2s just to get those extra reps in. So happy to see that, just because, man, I truly do. Like, I'm excited that this is the sign of a good coaching staff and like how this regime operates, right? Like, Brian Branch is clearly one of your best football players. So yes, he's an awesome nickel, like has the potential to be an all-pro there if you just left him there. However, you don't want to have to take him off the field. So I love that they're doing this and making the move to safety. And I still do think he'll get reps at the nickel, just depending on packages and personnel. But yeah, love that. Rakestraw, interestingly enough, got some first team reps opposite Terrion Arnold. He had been previously seeing a lot of nickel work. And I love it, man. His improvement has just been steady. I kind of figured he'd be one of those players that would begin to pop off once you put the pads on, just because it kind of seems like I don't know why I'm out of focus here. It just kind of seems like that's where his game lies. Like, he's not necessarily like a test player, which is kind of why he slid in the draft with the combine. But he's just he's a gamer, man. That's what he seems like to me. Just someone who's going to make plays. Had another interception today. So cool to see that, because at the end of the day, if I'm a betting man, I still think it's going to be Carlton Davis and Terrion Arnold to begin the season on the outside. But having guys like Ennis Rakestraw Jr., Emmanuel Mosley, Amik Robertson, like, you have a bunch of options there. And we haven't even talked about Stephen Gilmore, who's had a pretty good camp. You have options, right? So it's a good problem to have, at least on paper. And I'll be excited to see how they look against the Giants, although it's not like they have a high-powered passing attack. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. You guys know what I mean. So yeah, Brandon Joseph, my next note here. Staff, if you paid attention to the coaching staff last year, they talked a lot about Brandon Joseph's development and just his steadily improving in the background. Just one of those players that, was on the practice squad, spent a little bit of time on the active roster, if I'm not mistaken, or a good chunk of it. I just don't have it up here in front of me. But yeah, I do think that's something to watch, because he was repping with the 2s at safety. So opposite of Brian Branch when BB was getting his extra reps in. So you got to think he's doing everything in his power to carve out a role, right? Like, we already know he can play special teams. And if he can be legit, like a bona fide backup to really the three, I think, quote unquote starters in Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, and Afatu Melifonwu. That's just a nice luxury to have, right? Like having that fourth safety in Brandon Joseph who can step up and play some meaningful snaps on defense and not really miss a beat. That'd be great if his trajectory continued upwards. And then a little bit later, Eric and Jeremy talked about, which I thought was interesting because a lot of people, when they're, talking about Kirby Joseph's performance from 2023, a lot of people had a lot to say about the man's tackling, which I understand. It wasn't great. And then, there's instances when he overcommit or he just come in kind of like hair on fire. But here's what I'll tell you. So there's already that story out there about him adding like 15 pounds, right? So the thing is, man, Kirby is a big guy. Like we were at practice on Saturday and I was with my friend Sweta and she had her baby and they came up, Kirby Joseph and Carlton Davis, they were signing autographs right there. And he's just a big guy. Like I'm 6'3", but he's not much shorter than I am and just a big guy. The intangibles, like the traits are there, right? Like to be able to be a good tackler. But you got to remember, he transitioned from playing receiver back at the University of Illinois. That's why, in my opinion, his ball skills are so crazy. The way he gets his hands on the football and creates takeaways. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve there, but I say all that to say, Eric and Jeremy had a instance where they were doing an open field tackling drill, which it's important to them. And I'm not questioning Dan Campbell. He's shown that he knows what he's doing in terms of getting these guys ready to play. And he had a really nice open field tackle on Jahmyr Gibbs. Kirby Joseph did, which you gotta assume that's difficult to do, right? Like that's a shifty and sneakily like powerful back in Jahmyr Gibbs. So that was a great sign in my opinion, just because if Kirby can become a more consistent tackler when he does have to come, down near the line of scrimmage, that just makes him even easier to leave on the field 100% of the time, because what he gives you as that like deep patrolling, like in cover one, if you just got a single high safety, like that's where Kirby is going to make his money, because he does have so much range being the athlete that he is. And then he does, like, his ball tracking is crazy, and just he's one of those guys, like he's got that in him in terms of being a defensive back and patrolling like a deep half or a deep third, if you will. So something to keep an eye on. Another thing we keep hearing about is if you played football, like you look at David Montgomery, like the way he's built, and that's just a terrible time to tackle. Okay. Like if you've seen him in person up close, you're like, what do you tackle? Cause he's got, just powerfully built legs, short torso, just built like, he looks like he's just, it would not be fun. It's one of those you're like, oh man, this is going to hurt. Like you just know it. Like everyone's tackled someone like that. So I love hearing about that. And I think the report today was Jack Campbell got linked up trying to tackle Monty and just didn't go well, which, to be fair, I'm sure it's not really fun to tackle. Like it doesn't matter who you are. Even if you are Jack Campbell and you're 6'4", 6'5", 250, and you're a physical player, tackling Montgomery has not been fun. And I have heard that Carlton Davis is one of the only DBs that's been able to get Montgomery on the ground, like when he's being the force player and trying to turn the running back into the help. So that's good to see too, because Carlton Davis, when the Lions traded for him, was known for being a terrific man corner. Like that's his bread and butter. So if he's tackling one of the toughest running backs to bring down in open space, in my opinion, in Montgomery, because he is fast, he is shifty. We just talked about how physical he is. So that's good to see. One thing I am a little worried about, though, going back to the Coyote Awashika injury, or whatever's going on, I don't want to presume anything. We haven't gotten any firm word on that, is just the kind of dwindling depth on the interior offensive line. So something to keep, because Moody's done. I want to say he's having that. I can't remember what it was, but he's done for the year. You'd like to have a little bit more depth behind your starters, but at the end of the day, most NFL teams are looking for more depth on the offensive line. It's it's one of those things, man. I don't think the offensive line depth issue across the league is going to be solved until one of these leagues stick, like the USFL or, what have you, because there's a lot of positions that you can get work in, without like real football being played, quote unquote real football, like 7-on-7, you can get a really good work in if you're a skill player, you're a receiver, you're a tight end, you're a DB, you're a safety. But O line and D line, man, in them trenches, like it's got to be live bullets to really, like, you can work your sets and everything like that as an offensive lineman, and your hand placement and all that good stuff, your moves as a pass rusher, but until it's the real deal, it's tough to get to really get better at the position in terms of like being a pro, right? Like playing at the level that the NFL demands you to play at. So, at the very end of practice, last note, team worked red zone and situational stuff at the end of practice. And that's where I want to plug Pride of Detroit Direct. We have a really good deal going on right now. If you want to go over to the prideofdetroit.com, check it out. Eric and Jeremy dive deep into all of the situational stuff they did with the red zone and just situational in terms of like time, some of the Jake Bates ups and downs throughout camp so far. Although I've heard he's been pretty good from under, like 50-ish, which is at the end of the day, like that's all I'm really asking for. I'm not looking for the second coming of Justin Tucker. Just can you hit the gimmies when the Lions need 3 points and it's a tight game and you don't want to go for it when it's 4th and 6 on the 32. You know what I mean? So something like that. That's all I'm really looking for. My bar is low when it comes to the new kicker. So yeah, be sure to check out Pride of Detroit Direct. I promise you'll love it. If you love these videos that Miko's been doing for the most part and that I'm doing today, you'll like it. I promise you, it's worth it. Let us know in the comments what you think, what you want to hear more about. If there's someone that you're wondering, about in camp and you want to know a little bit more, feel free to leave it in the comments. We appreciate that. And as always, enjoyed making this video for you guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and keep your eyes peeled to the website. Like I said, Jeremy's going to be in New Jersey covering everything with the joint practices with the Giants. And we always have everything hitting the website on a daily basis. So be sure to head over there, and appreciate you guys. And as always, let's go Lions.